Hey guys, we are back. Welcome to another episode of the Fins Faithful podcast. Thanks for joining us on this eventful Wednesday evening. As always, we're with you guys live on YouTube and on X. But come on, make sure you guys come on over to YouTube, hit that subscribe and like button, help support us here at the Fins Faithful podcast. Well, I wasn't planning to start the top of the show, but of course, some Tyreek Hill news broke. No surprise to me. There was allegedly an assault in progress that police on Monday, I believe, were called to his residence. And there has been in his defense, no files charged, and he wasn't arrested. So that's the good news, right? However, what does this mean for the Dolphins' future with Tyreek Hill? Is this enough to push them over the edge? We'll get into that. Plus, could there be a post-draft front office shakeup? My guest tonight kind of threw that idea out there. And without further ado, let me introduce my guest. Is Matt Cannata from PFN. Matt, thanks for joining me. A lot to talk about, brother.
Oh, a lot to talk about. Always this time of the year. So always a fun time.
Thanks for joining me. Before we get started, quickly talk about your journey from podcasting for SB Nation to building your network. Just quickly give everybody the story behind that.
Yeah, so, for such a long time, I actually had my own Dolphins website, FinManiacs, back in, I don't know how long ago, a long time ago, more than 10 years ago. It was a passion. It was a side project, right? And I ran it for about 2 years and just couldn't keep up with it every day. I was doing it by myself, basically one other writer here or there. And then I said, you know what, I'm going to put this down and I'm going to go to SB Nation and with the Finsider, with Kevin Noble on the Finsider, and did a lot of podcasting and writing there for many, many years. And, different catalysts come and go and the butterfly effects and, started going to some Dolphins games here and there. I live in Connecticut, so getting down to South Florida is not the easiest for me. Went to a Jets Dolphins game and went to a Bengals Dolphins game, and that's where we started the company because that was the game where the Dolphins collapsed, and Ryan Tannehill was basically the end of the Ryan Tannehill and Adam Gase era, where it was just a massive, brutal collapse in the fourth quarter. They were up all three quarters, if you remember, back in 2019, Columbus Day weekend. And me and my co-founder, Aaron Sutton, were at the game together, and we were getting ready for the show, and we saw a lot of people in our mentions just blaming Ryan Tannehill. Everything, everyone wants to blame the QB for everything. Yeah. And we were at the game, and we saw everything that was happening. We saw Adam Gase sitting on the bench away from everybody else, not talking to the offense, not worried about the defense, just by himself looking at the play sheet. We saw all the lack of protection that was being built up on the left side and the right side of the line, where Tannehill just getting sacked left and right? And so everyone's on the TV who's watching the TV, all they see is Tannehill getting sacked. We're seeing the entire field. We're seeing everything. And we're like, we need to not only try to educate Dolphins fans, but educate every other fan base in the NFL. And so I said to Aaron, driving home the next day, dropping him off in Cleveland before going back home, said, we're going to start a website, and you're either with me or you're not. And Josh Houts, who many probably know, was also one of the original co-founders. And we were all doing the podcast together, and I messaged Houts and I said, we're doing this. You're in or you're out. I'm going to do it without you. I'm going to do it with you. We launched Pro Football Network on January 1st, 2019. We've grown it such a big spot to now, and we rebranded in February to do Pro Football and Sports Network. But going from this little tiny company, and if anyone recalls, we were the first one to break the Laramie Tunsil trade news.
I remember that.
We got blasted.
Yeah, I remember that.
Right, and then kind of propelled us into the space a little bit. We had a little bit of the magic happen the next summer of 2020. Things took off, and here we are today. And I'm happy to say that we are the number 2 NFL. We were the number 2 NFL focused website in the world based on unique visitors, right? Only behind NFL.com. Now we're doing all sports. So the game has changed a little bit. We're competing with some of the bigger boys in town, but we're doing really well for ourselves, and we're happy to have it. And I'm happy to be here with you tonight.
Yeah. Thank you. And congratulations on all your success, man. You paved the way. You gave guys like me ideas to try to pave the way and keep growing. We've been growing here for the last 6 months, and I appreciate everybody in the chat. Cap, Finn, Sammy,
consistency, man. That's what it's all about. You just got to be consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. And put in the work, be consistent. And I believe in relationships with people matter. And and people come back. We thank everybody who's in the chat. Make sure you guys come on over. We're with Matt Cannata from PFSN, talking Tyreek Hill now, talking front office shakeup, everything Dolphins. Hit that like and subscribe button. Make sure you support the channel. All right, Matt. So let's get to it. Everybody's here for the Tyreek stuff. I think it's best. Let's just pull up the article just to get everybody caught up on what has been going on. Let me pull it up here. So the headline: Tyreek Hill involved in a domestic dispute with his wife in Sunny Isles. Miami Dolphins wide receiver was involved in a domestic dispute with his wife at a high-rise condominium in Sunny Isles Beach on Monday, according to an incident report obtained by Local 10 News on Wednesday. Officers with the Sunny Isles Beach Police responded just before 2 p.m. to the 18,000 block of Collins Avenue following a report of an assault in progress, whatever that means. When they arrived, police said they spoke with Hill, his wife, Keita Hill, and her mother, Alicia Vaquero. Vaquero told officers she has been living with the couple since last November, shortly after the birth of her granddaughter. She described Hill, 31, as very aggressive and impulsive and said she feared for her daughter's safety, the report stated. Authorities said Vaquero called police after claiming she witnessed Tyreek Hill throw a laptop on the floor and grab his daughter and began walking towards the balcony of the 35th floor of their residence, following an argument with his wife. Keita Hill told police that she and Tyreek Hill had begun arguing more frequently and stated whenever she gives her opinion on anything they discuss, he becomes angry and throws objects around, the report stated. She said the two had been attending couples therapy, but it was not working out. During the most recent argument, police said she told Tyreek Hill that he wasn't involved enough with their child. She then says Tyreek became irritated without malice, grabbed the baby, and began walking with her, they wrote. Keita Hill also stated she is in the process of filing for divorce. According to police, authorities said Tyreek told officers that he just returned from training and was discussing therapy with his wife when the argument escalated. Police say he admitted by grabbing the baby, saying, I have the same rights as a father as her as a mother. I can take my baby whenever I want. Although both Hill and his wife stated the argument never turned physical, officers said they observed a bruise on Keita Hill's upper chest. She told them it may have happened unintentionally when Hill took the baby from her, according to reports. Officers noted the child appeared to be in good health. Keita Hill declined to provide a written statement to police. They said Tyreek Hill left the condo at 2:40 p.m. in the presence of officers and no arrests were made. Police issued a case card to Keita Hill, who they say remained at the residence with her mother and child. Monday's incident is the latest in a string of off-the-field issues for the Dolphins star dating back to last year. I think we get the message there. Matt, where do we start here? I mean, let's get the Dolphins statement. They just released a statement. Let me remove this. Dolphins spokesman. On Monday, we were informed the police were called to Tyreek Hill's home, and after conversations with Tyreek and members of his family, the police departed his residence without further incident, and the case was closed. We have since been in communication with Tyreek and the NFL. We have no further comment. And the last thing is the Sergeant Brian Schnell, the public information officer of Sunny Isles Police, tells Armando Sequeiro the domestic dispute incident involving Dolphins receiver Tyreek Hill is already a closed investigation. No crime was committed. Okay, no crime was committed. Matt, your take here, just reading all that and kind of we want to set everything up for all the viewers so they can get an idea. Actually, maybe they're coming home from work. Your thoughts, Matt? What are your first initial thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, it's another string of distractions for Tyreek Hill, right? It's just one thing after another. And I tweeted out, and there was a divorce rumor last year, right? And it kind of fell to the wayside. I had tweeted out that I didn't mention Tyreek specifically by name, but this regime has taken so many chances on high-risk, high-reward players, whether it's character, whether it's injuries, right? Whether it's aging veterans who may not have everything left in the tank yet, but maybe they can get them on a bargain and fill in some depth, right? And when it works out, great. And there could be an argument made that none of this has worked out for the Dolphins. You could also say, hey, maybe Teron Armstead, locker room leader, offensive line leader. He did play meaningful snaps. He worked out, right? You could look at Tyreek Hill. Did he work out? Did he not work out? He put up a lot of stats, put up a lot of numbers. He probably made them a ton of money on the business side. But did they win any playoff games with him? No. Did they win a Super Bowl? No, obviously not. So when you look at the on-field success, what are the goals every year of any football team? Make it to the playoffs, win playoff games, win the Super Bowl. There's only one Super Bowl winner, right? So in reality, 31 teams fail every single year. And in reality, when you look at a business kind of thing and you look at goals, you're not going to expect a team to win the Super Bowl every year, but you are going to have realistic expectations. When you put a team like that together, like they had 2 years ago and last year, you expect to win a playoff game with all that money loaded up, right? But this regime has just taken so many chances, and Tyreek Hill is one of those. Kansas City got rid of him for a reason, right? You always have to wonder why. And even in business, when I look at running PFSN and when I look at the business principles, the great thing about running this company is that I have been able to view these things in a different manner, because I try to put myself in the business mindset of like, okay, what are they thinking? Where are they going with this? When people are laid off and people are fired from jobs and you go and hire them and they don't work out for you. We've had several instances like that. It's because there was something wrong, right? There was a reason why they let them go. Sometimes layoffs, oftentimes, are not the fault of the person getting laid off. But I can tell you when there are layoffs, like sometimes those decisions become easier if someone's not a good employee, right? You have those, financial troubles that come up. You have strategic shifts with strategy, and those decisions become easier. Or if they're fired, obviously performance issue. And you're willing to let them go, right? And sometimes you have people who will come and say, listen, I love your offer. I'm going to go talk to my current employee, and they don't match, right? They don't match. They let that person walk. And they get to your company, they get to your ecosystem, and you realize this is why they were available, right? And I think it's the same thing with Tyreek. There's a reason why the Chiefs let him go. It wasn't just necessarily about the money. We've seen the Chiefs been able to finagle tons of different contracts at a very high dollar amount. They let him go for a reason, right? And Miami picked up on that. They picked up Tyreek in a trade, and they brought him in, and he had a lot of success with Tua on the field, but it didn't lead to any actual fruitful results, right? The Dolphins are not in a better spot today than they were 2 years ago. 2 years ago, that was their window. And I know we'll talk about that, but that was their window 2 years ago. They thought they could run it back this past year. Tua gets hurt. There goes those plans, right? But the Dolphins always seem to be 1 year too late on everything. Dating back to even Joe Philbin, they're just always 1 year too late. You can look at common denominators. You can look at, well, who's always there? What's the reason why they're so late? And I also try to look at that from a business mindset, because it's all about timing. When are you going to press the trigger to do something, to do a strategic shift, to enforce layoffs, to fire somebody, to give someone another chance, to reassign somebody, to launch the new project, to not launch a new project? It's always about timing. And you never want to make that wrong decision. And it's almost like the Dolphins front office and business side, or whatever the case might be, are just too afraid that they're going to make the wrong decision. So they let it play out. And usually, most of the time, all the time, it's a year too late. It's 6 months too late. And I think we're seeing the same thing with Tyreek, right? His trade value was the highest last year, coming into last season. But again, I think the Dolphins thought they could run it back with the team, because I do believe that they thought 2 years ago was their window, and they thought they could do it again, and they couldn't. Now, what kind of trade value are we going to get with Tyreek? You look at his contract, the guy is almost untradeable until after June 1st. You can do a post-June 1st trade, right? At that point, you have, 14.9 in cap savings. But if you trade him with a pre-June 1st designation, it's you have $28 million in dead money. So it's a big number. Now, we have seen a lot of teams not be afraid to eat the cap, right? We've seen a lot in the past few years. The Browns with Watson, I know there's some injury history there and so forth. The Giants with Daniel Jones. So it wouldn't be unprecedented for a team like the Dolphins or anyone else to eat that large of a number. But now you have to. It's just, who's going to trade for this guy? Yes, he was cleared, but teams don't want distractions unless teams are desperate for a win, and you have desperate GMs and desperate head coaches to keep their job.
Yeah, I agree completely. Everything you said almost about Tyreek. I said when they got him, I always get worried when an organization like the Eagles or the Chiefs or even in other sports, the top front offices trade you a player. You got to raise your eyebrow. Why did they do it? Not to mention they went on to win a couple Super Bowls after that, right?
Mhm.
And but they brought him in. It was exciting at that time. I said, and everybody looked at me crazy. I said, where this rebuild went wrong, and we'll talk about it, Matt, is when they went from acquiring all those picks to all of a sudden 316, starting with the Tyreek Hill trade, when you just had Jalen Waddle, dumping all those picks, and then that turned into the F the pick thing, right? And if you F the picks, you got to be like St. Louis, the right quarterback, and you got to hit on mid-round picks. You got to have multiple fours, multiple fives, multiple threes, not just 4 picks in the draft. Especially this front office needs the most lottery tickets they can. And you know what they realized is, man, it's sort of a soft reset this year because they realized we kind of messed up. We went too old, and now all of our guys are hurt. We don't have depth. Now we got to kind of close the bank, get more draft capital.
Mm-hmm.
So where's the direction? And I said,
this is interesting, right? And I just want to re-clarify. I see Scotty in the chat saying you can't designate a post June 1st. Yes, you cannot designate a post June 1st trade. You have to do it after. You can only do that for cuts. So thanks for the clarification there. I misspoke there. You're right. This is a soft reset. It is. And I give the fans a lot of credit because when I tweeted this out the other day, like everyone's completely on board. And you have to look at why are they keeping Greer? Why are they keeping McDaniel Hill around for this soft reset?
I said they should have traded Matt, not to cut you off. They should have traded Tyreek Hill last year.
They should have. They probably thought they could run it back.
And I know they do. I had Ben Albright. I don't know if you're familiar with Ben Albright. I had him on. I had him on. He told me, look, in that building, they believe they can compete with Buffalo. That's the problem. They think it's just health. And part of it's true, right? Their health is a big issue. But, what do you expect when you draft the most where teams had off their board to it? Nobody talks about that. A ton of teams. So, and just to finish my point, I said they should have traded him last year. And even this year, you're not going to have another shot to deal him. Now, Matt, I don't know what his value is, but I'm going to tell you, is this enough? I asked you the question, is this enough to do a post-June release? Like, even though there's no files charged, we're trying to reset the locker room. Where's the discipline here?
I mean, remember, his contract for this year is a $29.9 million contract. Now, it gets a lot better, and it's basically a 1-year contract because you can work it out.
I know it's difficult, but at some point you gotta.
Someone's gonna be desperate, I think, for a talent like Tyreek. You can't ignore the talent.
No.
I want to go back to Jalen.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
No, that's okay. It's a conversation, right? I mean, Jalen Waddle had a great rookie season, and then he kind of disappeared once Tyreek came into the fold. Once Tyreek started getting, that's taking his not snaps, but taking the targets away. And there was a game, and I don't remember which one, where Tyreek did not play, and the Dolphins' offense actually looked better without Tyreek because they weren't trying to force the ball to him.
Well, I don't know why I'm thinking it was a Jets game or something like that.
It may have been.
I know what game you're talking about. Yeah,
but the offense looks so much better, right? And so it's the thing with the Dolphins is I kind of forgot where I was going with this, but
there's just so many things.
If you go back to the soft reset, why are they keeping McDaniel and Greer around? Either they're keeping them around to just get us through the year, and then we're going to bring in a new coach, or they really think that Mike McDaniel is the guy. Now, let me say this. In business, in my world, right, I have had managers come in and really struggle with their position. And my first move is to never fire somebody. I always give people a second chance, a third chance even. I put them in a different spot. I move them around in the company. I give them different responsibilities, kind of change their outlook a little bit. And sometimes it works for them. Other times it's just who they are, right? And I look at a McDaniel, I look at a Greer, and I always think it's unfair for head coaches and GMs to get fired for the QB failing. We know the draft is a crapshoot. We know that even QBs are crapshoots, right? And so when you look at why is Greer hanging around, there is no doubt in my mind that he probably does a lot of things really, really well in that building. We have to remember a GM just doesn't sit down and look at tape all day, right? They're running the entire football operation. And, we'd be naive to think that all Chris Greer does and all his job is to watch tape all day long, right? It's not. He's delegating that to his personnel staff. And the reason why Greer probably stays around, because it happens in my world, is they're really good at other stuff. They have a really good work ethic. They understand it. They just have weaknesses. We all have weaknesses, right? I have weaknesses as a CEO of the company where I have a blind spot in different spots, but I hire people smarter than me to take care of that for me and to run that area. So why is Greer hanging around? It's probably because he does a lot of good stuff. Now, that brings me to my next point. I'm not going to be surprised if they elevate him to a VP of football operations role sometime after the draft. There were rumors about it last year. There have been rumors about it before, and I could see it happening. And then having a true personnel person come in and run that department, right? I don't like when football organizations, if I look at it from a business perspective, I look at it from a role where you need someone to just run everything, and then you need someone to just really handle each different area and have full autonomy and full control. I love the VP of football operations structure because a GM trying to watch tape and trying to select players and also dealing with everything else, right? Like Greer was dealing with Tyreek this whole week. He has to talk to the PR team. He has to talk to the communications, talk to the coaching staff, talk to the legal team, talk to the security team, talk to all those people. The guy has no time to watch tape. And so he needs to focus on that bigger stuff and allow someone to come in. Maybe it's a Marvin Allen to just run that personnel department and be in charge of selecting those players. Obviously, as VP of football ops or CEO, you have the final say on different things, but a good CEO, a good leader is going to defer to their people because they're in the trenches, they're doing the work. With McDaniel, I know there's been rumblings about him and his future and what his role is in the locker room as a relationship with players. I think they're giving him one more year to figure it out, right? I do. I don't think there's anything where it's like, hey, McDaniel, we know is our guy, or maybe he's not our guy. I think they're just saying you had a really good first year. You struggled your second year. What does year 3 bring? And this is the ultimate proving ground. To Scotty's point in the comments, Ross is not someone who loves to fire people. Remember what Jeff Ireland, he tried to make this structure with people to keep Ireland around and not fire anybody, right? Ross would always prefer to move people around. He actually shares a strategy that aligns with me. Give people chances if they're really well in something. Try to find what really works for them and put them in spots. So I don't think Dolphins fans should be upset if Greer gets elevated, right? I think they should be upset that Greer was keeping him in this spot for so long and not having a true person truly in charge of that personnel department. Now, maybe there is, and we just don't see it on the outside, and Greer is that public face of it. But I think to truly get to that next spot, you got to have those different layers of the organization.
Yeah, I agree with you. We got over 115 people watching here. Come on over to YouTube, guys. Take a second, hit that little bell and like button. I hate asking, but it takes a second. It really helps the channel if you come on over and watch with us on YouTube. Yeah, I agree. And the thing, you make a great point. We're going to talk about the front office because I kind of want to get it. I don't have a good understanding. There's so many cooks in the kitchen. I really don't have a good understanding. It's always been like that. I think it's part of Greer's philosophy that he keeps surviving is because he's a connector. He's not a conviction guy, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't stand on the table. I don't know where Chris Greer's power moves has been. We'll get to that. But I want to wrap up the Tyreek thing saying this. Is Tyreek Hill a Miami Dolphin opening day?
I don't think so. If I had to bet money on it right now, I don't think so. I'd be shocked if he comes back. If he comes back, I think McDaniel is playing Russian roulette with his future as head coach.
Yeah, and I don't think Greer's in the hot seat because here's the thing about Ross.
No, he's not.
Ross loves harmony, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ross, I've been told behind the scenes the Dennis Hickey situation soured him. Like he realized Dennis Hickey didn't know how to do a lot of things, and he couldn't just leave it to Dennis Hickey. Even though quietly Dennis Hickey made some decent draft picks, the Juwan James, Jarvis Landry draft. We've had worse drafts than that. But I think he finally feels a guy he trusts. And Garfinkel. Garfinkel's a very interesting.
Garfinkel's excellent. Garfinkel unfollowed me on Twitter. Let me tell a story about that.
If you're watching Garfinkel, follow Cannata.
Yeah, no. Let me tell a story about
that. Go ahead.
Maybe I shouldn't, but I will. No, Garfinkel.
You have to. Not like Garfinkel.
When I was doing a Dolphin stuff back in, for the Finsider,
yeah.
The Dolphins used to invite us down for Web Weekend and all the fan creator sites, and they were excellent to us. And Garfinkel was following me at the time on Twitter and saw me in the hallway and said my name, first and last name, knew who I was. Really nice, down-to-earth guy. Doesn't act like this big bad CEO of a company.
Right.
You could approach him, But when the Brian Flores thing was happening, I had the inside information that everyone was talking about Chris Richard as the head coach and pointing in that direction. It was me and actually Adam Beasley. He used to work for us. He's left the industry since. In January, he left the industry, but me and him had the scoop on Flores. And I was tweeting something out, and I think Garfinkel accidentally liked one of my tweets about Flores. And stupid me screenshotted it and tweeted it out. I'm like, oh, look what Tom Garfinkel did. Boy. And then I think he don't follow me like a day or two later. So
if he's watching, give him another shot. No. I'm sure he has nothing else better to do right now.
CEO spot, right? Of what he's doing is incredible. And certainly has oversight. But again, I think if people think that he's sitting there dabbling in football decisions day in and day out, he's not.
See, right? That's what I don't know if you have information behind the scenes here. I don't.
No, it's just the typical role of a CEO. He has so much going on.
I don't know, because I've heard that there's Brandon Shore, who apparently was the one who's the finance guy, who's the contract guy, right? Who does great things in that area. And he's the one that reportedly was against extending. Not keeping Tua, but extending him at that time. Letting what I think most fans would think would be the smart thing, letting him play on the 5th year. Brandon Shore, how involved is he in there? How involved is
Brandon Shore? Is very involved, right? He's very involved.
What's Greer's role? So when you say front office shakeup, and we got to talk about Champ Kelly.
Yeah, Champ Kelly's very Scotty. Who's the Scotty guy in the chat? He's like nailing everything. Bring him
Scotty,
on the show. Bring him on the show one day.
Yeah, we got to get you on the show, Scotty.
Yeah, I agree 100% with Scotty. People should be paying attention to that, because I think do I think he's going to leapfrog Marvin Allen and become GM? I'd be surprised. It's possible, but I'd be surprised because Marvin Allen's been there a few years with Greer. But when I say front office shakeup, I don't think anyone should be expecting Greer to get fired.
No, I agree. It's actually a promotion.
He's going to get promoted, which I believe he should. He has to focus on so much in those football ops that people just don't see or just don't recognize, and all they think they do, he does is pick players. That's not true, right? Elevate him, promote Marvin Allen or Champ Kelly to GM, let them run that department, let them focus on players all day, every day, and then I think the Dolphins can be in a way better spot.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing is that, look, Greer might do a lot of things in the organization as well. I'd feel more comfortable if I have Marvin Allen in the room with the big board and the tape. Yeah, I'm running the draft.
You want them to do that all day long, right?
Listen, Greer has no problem with that. He's not a guy who's banging the table for he'd give a recommendation like he wants this player, but he listens to his coach. It's part of his problem.
Yeah,
he can't, and it's part of the problem, but it's also part of the reason he's been around so long, because he can always pass the blame. He's 100%. Smart, right? Let's not get it twisted. He knows what he's doing. I don't care if it's the promotion actually does more what fans want and get somebody like Marvin Allen in the seat, and the draft picks are his. Hey, Mr. Ross, Mr. Allen, I recommend we take this player. Not to mention, if we're taking another quarterback, because Dolphin fans, I got news for you. Greer's not going anywhere. Because you know what the problem with Greer is? He's not horrible at his job.
Right. The thing is the philosophy and the vision, right?
Yeah, of course.
If Greer is setting the philosophy and the vision for the football department and how they handle contracts and all that kind of stuff, that's going to remain. And if fans have an issue with that, right, then that's not going to change, because the same guy is leading the vision, leading the philosophy.
Yeah.
So, but I do think, like you said, Greer has admitted, and so many stories have come out where Greer defers to others in the room.
Yes.
And Greer is the kind of guy where he's going to hire people and then get out of their way, right? He's going to have guardrails, just like I have guardrails for my editor-in-chief, for my social team, for my stats and insights department. But I'll be honest, like, I don't know what's being published on our website every day, right? I see things here and there, but I'm not reading every article. We publish maybe like 100 plus stories a day on our website. I have no idea what's being published, and that doesn't make me a bad CEO. It doesn't make me out of touch. It's because I just have so much other things to focus on with the strategy and the vision and everything else. But I have guardrails for my editor-in-chief, right? I have a vision for my editor-in-chief, and his job is to go carry out that vision and that execution. And even my CFO, who maybe some of you follow, Matt Cannata, we have different financial visions, right? He's very conservative. I'm probably conservative and / aggressive, or, lean more toward the aggressive side, but also I understand when to be a little conservative. So we have different philosophies on spending and hiring, and when to hire, not to hire, what areas to invest in the company, what not areas. So it's always a give and take. Now, there are things where I will have a very strong conviction on something, and I will tell my staff, this is what we're doing. Get on board. I don't care if you disagree, get on board. And you got to have that at the top. But I'm not the guy who's going to sit there and dictate everything. I'm going to listen to everyone's opinions. And my I like to be stern on the vision, but I like to be flexible on the details. And that's where those kind of things come in. Like if you want to attack a vision a certain way, and maybe Marvin Allen or Champ Kelly wants to, build through the draft or build through free agency and give this kind of contract out to this guy or invest in this area, those are the details of all of that, right? So I think there can be a really good dynamic. Yeah. But the philosophy is the biggest thing. The philosophy and the vision
and the plan.
Who's drawing that philosophy.
They changed plans midway through, so there's got to be somebody who there's too many hands involved. There's got to be somebody who has the accountability, so Mr. Ross can look at it and say, okay, this is the direction we're going, because clearly there was no plan. It was just, all right, Tyreek's available, let's go there, and then we just keep.
And sometimes, I've made that mistake too in business, right? I mean, I'm not dealing with money that's like Tyreek Hill money, but you see someone laid off. I mentioned this kind of at the top of the show. You see someone laid off, you see someone fired, and you kind of look into it more, and you're like, this guy's really good, this girl's really good. Why are they available? We have to bring them on board. And again, it usually doesn't work out. There are very small few cases where it does work out, but usually the things that work out, they're homegrown talent, right? Like I have 3 or 4 staff who have been with us since day one, and they started off as contractors and volunteers and passion. They made like $250 a month with article revenue, and we promoted them. And first full-time employee was the guy with us for day one, doing everything for free. So we have a core of homegrown talent. That's our exec team now. We brought a few people from the outside, but we've made mistakes, right? Every company made mistakes. Hiring is hard. Talent evaluation is hard. Bringing in the right people is hard. And they might have all the talent in the world, but if they're not a fit for the culture, and you don't know if they're a fit or not for the culture, like people like to talk about, hey, let's talk to this guy pre-draft, or the Dolphins talking to this guy, checking off boxes. You don't know how that person's going to be until they're around everyone else. And I've seen it in my company, Pro Football and Sports Network, at PFN 365, PFSN365.com. I've seen it in my company where individuals or in very small groups, they're amazing, right? You put them all in one big group, let's call it a locker room, the dynamic completely changes. So you don't really know until you really know. So when we say the draft is a crapshoot and we're all sitting back home like, why can't these people see these red flags? It's so much is about the character. So much is about the character, because all these players are talented, right? It's about the drive, it's about the work ethic, it's about the support they have at home, and it's about the character, what they have on inside of them.
Yeah, I think too. I always say this, like when we're talking about draft prospects, and I say put yourself in the GM. You go and sit down and meet a guy in a top 30 visit, and you just don't like him. Like he rubs you the wrong way. How do you draft him? Like those are the things we don't know and we don't see. And you got to take that when a guy, you see these mock drafts now, and I'm guilty of doing it myself. They're fun. By the way, your simulator is awesome. I was
going to say, visit the Pro Football Network.
We use it. We use this simulator on our show. So thank you for creating that one. I find it the easiest. So yeah, everybody go check out Matt in that his draft simulator. We'll put the link. We'll put the link and everything after the show in the chat box.
Let me bring up one more point.
Yeah.
I was at the Shrine Bowl a few years ago, doing some content for PFSN, and I had my draft analyst Ian Cummings with me, and Tony Pauling was with us at the time, and we were all there.
Tony on the show.
Yeah. Interviewing these players after practice. We Eric Galco, the director there, was nice enough to give us access to these players afterwards. And I remember telling Ian after we left one day on our way back to the hotel, I'm like, man, like you don't see this stuff on TV. You don't see this stuff. And you just get a glimpse of what these guys do on the field for 3 hours a week. You don't understand their character. And just by talking to these players and their answers and how they were answering and the respect they were giving, I was able to immediately, just talking to them for 10 minutes, look at them and say, this guy has a chance. And there was also some where I said, this guy has no chance.
Yeah.
Because they could not think through things. They could not treat people the right way with respect. They could not look people in the eyes. And that's so important when you get to that level of those little things that set you apart, because everyone has a talent.
Yeah, when at that level, there's things you can't see. The ability of a guy's will to get better. When you see guys get better, the work ethic to get better, you can't measure that kind of stuff. But
Yeah,
let's move on. Let's talk a little about the current team situation here. The Tua situation, right?
yeah.
We all know. Look, Tua's proved he's in this system very good NFL starting quarterback. Just I have issues, but besides the injury history, the ability to win the big game at the end when stuff's a little crazy around him and not perfect, his ability to lead and kind of beat these better teams, obviously in December and January, but mainly the injury and the durability. What do you see to his future? Like, and when should they start? Like, they need to start preparing already. Maybe this draft, not maybe high, but in the middle rounds, start preparing already to get that position kind of replenished.
How about Shedeur Sanders at 13?
Ooh, you're down for that?
I think
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan.
I'm down for the revenue PFSN will.
Yeah, I'm down for our show.
Write the articles right about that. I'm down for that.
Yeah.
Someone asked me, like, are you still a Dolphins fan? Like, after starting this business, and I'll tell you, the business hardens you.
You can't lose that, man. It does change things.
It's not as much as it used to be. I'll admit that. Like, I was a diehard fan, Dolphins, and like everything around my life revolved around the Dolphins. And I started the business.
Scotty's on the money again.
And it just Scotty's great. And Scotty, I'm gonna hire you. The business hardens you because you're just so focused on everything else. And like on Sundays when we're working, it's like you can't focus. But I'm not gonna lie, I had every game up on I have 6 monitors in front of me. I have every game up on the screen, but my center screen is a Dolphins game.
Yeah.
So I can't let go of that completely.
Yeah, it'll never completely die, right? But
no. So what? And people ask me, like, are you a Dolphins fan? Like, what are you rooting for? I'm like, I'm rooting for revenue for the company. I'm rooting for traffic, right? I'm rooting for chaos. But I would love the chaos. I don't think it's a realistic. And if it is,
you would do it though. Would you? Putting the business aside, as a football guy, I'm not a huge. He's a lot like Tua, right? There's a lot of Tua in him.
It's hard.
I don't want the stuff that comes with it. We just went through that with Tua. All the stuff that comes with it, to me, is a big turnoff. It's a shame. Tua's a good kid.
What do you do about Tua's injury concerns, right? He's just one hit away from being sidelined again. And we pray that every time he runs, I'm sure we're all holding our breaths.
Yeah.
Right? Every time he gets hit.
And he's not learning. He's still doing it.
No, he's not learning at all. So like you don't want to say like the next concussion's the next one because we've said that the past 2 concussions, right? Yeah, this is the last one. This is the last one. This is the last one. He's done.
Yeah.
But there's going to be a point where he's just not going to be able to go. He was out for so long this past one during the season. And then what's the next one to look like? Because we all know the more you get, the more recovery time it's going to take. So you have to address that at some point, right? I mean, if you take Shedeur at 13, you're being very vocal. This is a rebuild year. It's not unprecedented, though. Just last year, we saw the Falcons sign Kirk Cousins in free agency and then draft Michael Penix. What was it, number 8 or 9 overall? And Scotty, I do agree with you. Like, just accumulate the picks. That QB position, if you don't have a QB, you're not going to win.
You know what I said about it? I said I've always said this, and people again were like, they didn't understand. I said I would treat Tua like the Alex Smith situation. Tua, Tua's your starting quarterback. You can win with Tua Tagovailoa with the right. It's no doubt. He's a top 12, 14 quarterback in this league. Some of you have him in the top 8 or 6. Get it, but you just can't trust him, right? You can't trust him personally with his ability not to understand every outside run that he tries to get a first down. It wasn't the concussion; it was the hip, soft tissue injury, whatever that was.
Yeah,
you can't trust him. So draft a guy. Maybe not in this draft, but like if Sanders falls, next year's draft especially is good at the quarterback. Hand him the clipboard. If you think, give him reps. So here's the other thing fans don't realize. Tua takes so many reps in practice, more than the usual, because this offense is such it's like rehearsing a play. That's what when you see this success on Sunday, it's what happens Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in practice.
100%.
Yeah. So grab a quarterback, McDaniel, get in the lab with him. Tua's a veteran now. Hand the quarterback the clipboard, and you know what? What we think it probably will happen, Tua gets hurt, you give the kid the clipboard. or you have another quarterback in there, if it's Zach Wilson, whoever it is, treat it like Alex Smith. You can't deny that, yes, you could sell me on healthy. He led the league in passing or completion. Yes. But how many times have we can trust it? It wasn't even the concussions this year at the end of the season that he won't be there. I would take it like that. And it's not a knock on Tua. It's just say, hey, man, I know. And there's another problem, Matt. You probably know this better than anybody. This franchise has been allergic to quarterback competition in the room for years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tua should be enough in the league now, 5th, 6th year, proven enough. It's fine. You could put a player in and he should be okay, right?
Yeah, and we'll have our 2026 rankings out the day after the draft. We'll have the mock draft simulator, the PFSN mock draft simulator, updated with 2026 as soon as the NFL draft is over in a few weeks. Our draft analyst Ian Cummings put out a tweet today. He sees 2 young ascending QBs that have caught his eye already on tape: Lenora Sellers from South Carolina and Eli Holstein from Pittsburgh. And I see Scotty in the chat mentioning some names as well. So. Yeah. You always have to balance that where it's like, all right, if you're going to be in position to draft a QB next year, it means you're probably pretty bad this year, right? And so the Dolphins might be weighing that, saying, hey, let's roll it with Tua, let's see what happens, let's trade down picks. Because I think Scotty's right. If you're sitting there at 13 and Shador's on the board, you're going to have a team that's going to want to come up, accumulate those picks, get as many starters, get as many darts as possible, and then worry about the QB next year, right? Because if you fail, you're going to be in a good spot. You're going to get a QB on a rookie contract with everyone having a year under their belt and being able to get that. And maybe Tua stays healthy all season long and you make a magical run. I mean, at this current stage, though, they have so many holes on their team. And I tweeted out the other day that Super Bowl teams and playoff teams have depth, good depth. Dolphins don't even have starters right now, right? So unless they accumulate picks and really hit on their draft picks this year, we're in for a really rough
season. They got to hit a home run. They've set themselves – and they haven't hit. A home run is not, like I always said, a home run is not like Chop Robinson. Like, good pick, but you got nothing else from we hope Patrick Paul, but nothing from Jalen Wright. I guess the other next best rookie was Malik Washington, the third receiver. They got to have a draft like the Eagles have, the Chiefs, where you have 2, 3, 4 guys contributing. Yeah. Not only contributing, at least 2 or 3 making an impact. We just haven't seen that yet. So, again, everybody, we're with Matt Cannata from PFSN. Talking Tyreek, the Dolphins. We'll wrap it up here soon, but everybody, please come on over to YouTube, hit that like, subscribe button. I'll get your links to your stuff and your website at the end of this inside the chat box. At the end of the show. All right, let's end it with this. We talking draft, pick 13. Do they have to just draft their need, or like we have so many needs? Like I can sell myself on 4 or 5 guys. Like anybody they pick really. Besides maybe if Genty fell or Tyler Warren or something like that, or the Sanders pick, kind of that off the radar pick. Any of the other positions, like
I think a wild card. I think a wild card is Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland.
Yeah,
I think those are wild cards there. I don't think the Dolphins would necessarily pick them, but I also wouldn't hate the move. I think you look at linebacker. I'm not sure that the Dolphins necessarily prioritize.
I love Schlesinger at UCLA, man.
I think they have a fine enough talent edge right now to Chop Robinson. Yeah. You hope Jalen Phillips comes back healthy and so forth. Right. Who was it? Someone mocked Matthew Golden. I forget who it was.
I saw that. I'm not buying that.
Look at Malachi Starks, but as a safety going to make game-changing plays. I don't know. You have to swing for the fences.
It's a Greer pick. Malachi Starks is a Greer pick, though, right?
If I'm a GM, it's so tempting to pick that skill player because I love it. You're gonna sell tickets. You're gonna sell jerseys. You're gonna do all that. You're gonna win the press conference. You're gonna win the PR world. But you look at the winning teams. You look at the Super Bowl teams. You look at the playoff teams. It's in the trenches. It starts in it's such a cliche.
You're not winning in January when you do that.
But you got to build the trenches. And if I'm Greer, I'm going offensive line or I'm going defensive tackle. You have to.
I'll give you a thing here too. There's a guy nobody's talking about. I have a feeling, like I know everybody loves Mason Graham. I don't know if he makes it to 13. Like he's the type of guy, Matt. Like that he doesn't drip with his physical attributes. He's the type of guy that, you know what, let me sell myself on Jalen Walker instead, a guy with more upside. Like, if he's there at pick 10, would not shock me. You know what I mean? Would not shock me. Now, will he get to 13? Probably not. But I actually think Kenneth Grant's a better fit for them. Maybe in a trade down, he's a guy to keep an eye. I heard they like him a lot in the building.
Yeah, I mean, and Kenneth Grant is one. Derek Harmon's another, right? You got Tyler Booker. I know not everyone's in love with him. You got a Josh Simmons. You got a Kelvin Banks who might be there, or Walter Nolan. Maybe 13's a little too high for Nolan, right? Kenneth Grant. You need a lunch pail guy. You need a guy who loves football, and I know that's like so overused, but you really have to get people.
They need somebody in the culture in the locker room, Matt. I mean, we lost Campbell, we lost Armstead. So those two guys. If you had to make your pick today, who would it be?
If I had to make my pick, I'm going Derek Harmon. Derek Harmon or Kenneth Grant at that spot there. Yeah. I'm going defensive tackle. I'm putting pressure on the QB. I'm tempted to take a Tyler Booker. I'm tempted to take a Kelvin Banks if he's there. But I think at the end of the day, I go DT because they've lost so many snaps from last year.
The thing with Banks is I like him at guard, but he also provides that tackle insurance for Paul. All right. You mentioned the tight ends. Tomorrow, we have a tight end show. I just went through the tight ends. Man, I love Loveland. as much as almost as Warren. Like he is
Loveland's getting beast. a lot of goods.
That's tomorrow. Check that out. We'll have the quarterbacks and tight ends at 8 p.m. Tomorrow on the on season. All right. Last question. We'll get you out of here. 2020, not this season, next year, 2026. Which of these people are not part of the organization? Tua, McDaniel, Greer.
Tua.
Oh,
I think it's Tua. I think
with Zach Wilson as the reclamation.
No, McDaniel's a hard one because you don't know.
I think he's on the hot seat.
First McDaniel you're gonna get. You're gonna get year one. You're gonna get year two.
No.
Right. That's the huge wild card. But I think if you have a new coach coming in anyways, they're probably gonna get their own QB. As good as Tua is, he just can't stay healthy, and that's what it comes down to.
Agreed. And next year's draft is loaded. But again, with multiple QBs, it seems like. All right, Matt, thanks for joining us. Everybody, come on over, hit that like, subscribe button, help support us here. Also, check out Matt's work. Matt, before you go, let everybody know where they can find you and the stuff you got working on over there at PFSN.
Yeah, all sports now. We got our NFL mock draft simulator. Just type in PFN mock draft simulator, PFSN mock draft simulator in Google. You number 1 or 2 right there. Throw us a hit there. We're updating those almost every day, the rankings and so forth. We're updating it through the draft. ProFootballNetwork.com at PFN365. And then you can find me at Cannata PFN. Scotty, throw me a DM. I want to talk to you more.
All right, guys. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. Again, tomorrow on the on-season, we're live with the quarterback, tight end scouting reports on the on-season. Looking forward to that. That's at 8 p.m. tomorrow. As always, guys, for Matt, myself, thank you guys. As always, stay Fins faithful. We are out.